Hey everybody, my name is Vonnie Simon and welcome to my part 1 of 6 video series. So in this video series what we're going to be talking about is characterization. Now I broke this up into 6 series because people don't really realize that characterization is a lot more immersive than what flavor ice cream they like to enjoy or what type of iced tea they sip on. Is it Long Island or is it Lipton? Who knows and really who cares? Characterization is about knowing the person on an interior level the same way you would understand them on an exterior level. Now, yes, take for granted we are going to be talking about primarily, your protagonists, but shouldn't your secondary characters be characterized as well? Everything about this part about writing is that you really need to understand your character. This is what separates a memorable character from a character that was just there for page space. You don't want that because you're a better writer than that. My point being is that you have to know your characters almost just as well as you know yourself or even your friends. So let's just dive in. Before we kick the video off, I ask that you please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you're thinking. Do you like these questions? Do you have any other questions that you think I should add on to this part of the 6 video module? So question number 1, where are they from? Now, whoever you're characterizing right now, whoever the character is, where are they from? Where were they born? Are they from Stockington, Alabama? I don't know if that's a real place, but it just popped in my head. Are they from Manhattan, New York? Are they from Patterson, New Jersey? Are they from Philadelphia? Not only do you need to be specific with the state, that is presuming that, this is an American character or at least a character born in America. You also have to take into account specifically where. It would really be helpful to know, like, for example, just knowing that they are from Arizona is helpful, but it'd be really helpful to know where exactly are they from in Arizona? What township? Now, why this helps? I mean, let's be real. The way how a city dweller would operate their day-to-day life will be vastly different than, let's say, a country bumpkin somewhere in Tennessee. Vastly different, Question number 2. How big is their family? Now, their family includes who are their parents? Who are their grandparents? Siblings. So you got your brothers, you got your sisters. Are they close, with the cousins? Obviously, regardless of the close or not, the cousins, they got cousins. They got nieces, they got nephews. How big is the family tree? But remember, just like your protagonist is going to be characterized, you're also going to need to characterize these other individuals. Now, wait, pause, because this can be tricky. Doesn't mean that you need to characterize your other people that will never be seen or barely even mentioned to in this story. They don't really need to be, so in-depth of a characterization. You can just get by with a simple, basics, one-liners. Just have a basic understanding of the people around this character who we're going to be centering on in the story, whether they are secondary or whether they're primary. So keep in mind, if the story isn't involved in these characters and they're pretty much like the bushels surrounding the hedge of the secondary primary character, just keep the characterizations at a minimal level. You'd be surprised. Understanding the characters who grew up around your primary or secondary character, just even at a minimal level, would give you even a greater insight into the characterization on the characters of your primary or your secondary characters. You really have to think about them in and out, give them a life. Number 3, describe their birth. How did it happen? Were they born at a regular, ordinary hospital? Was it a city hospital? Was it a small town hospital? Was it a private hospital? The birth could have been at home. Birth could have been under duress. Like, let's say you're writing a World War II story or World War I story, whatever, and there's just like bombs being blown all over and mother is pregnant and she pushes out the baby while they're in a bomb shelter. And yeah, that can happen. That'd be actually great, and that also gives you more insight into your character because you realize, like, damn, they were born into a world of shit. But on a serious note, understanding how a person was born also gives you insight into their background in the world that they were also born into. There's so many things that can play into it because understanding how they were born also gives you insight into the circumstances that their parents were going through or parent were going through at the time. You know, whether they had money or didn't have money. That means that the child was also born into that struggle or into that, gift. Number 4 is a fun question. How did the parents screw when they conceived their character? Or did they? It could have been a test tube baby, for all I know. I don't know what type of it. Could have been writing a sci-fi project, for all I know. But somebody had been like, let's say, I don't know why this pops up, but there's a movie back in 2008 directed by Judd Apatow called Knocked Up. It was a simple hookup, and from that hookup, a baby was conceived. Boom. Right there, that's the circumstance between the two parents. Two characters can commingle and a baby can pop up, and maybe that would force them to stick together, which is what exactly happened in that story. Or, let's say it was more of a respectable thing, let's say an arranged marriage, and it was arranged sex at an arranged time on an arranged date with arranged contraceptives, or technically without arranged contraceptives, but it could have been, very boring, mundane thing, and they decided to have the baby, and the baby, popped out. Or, you could also provide some backstory that after a miscarriage or 2 miscarriages that your baby popped out. There you go. Question 5. What are their financial circumstances? Do they grow up poor, rich? Are they still poor, still rich? Do they lose the money along the way? That could tell you a lot about how your character, handles money. That can tell you a lot about how your character handles money in their life. Just because you were born rich doesn't mean that you're now rich still at 34. You could, let's say your character could have been, a very eccentric party girl, party boy, blew the money in a bad investment or at a nightclub or just having a very lavish lifestyle, and now they're they're on the bottom, and now they gotta work their way back up again. Something can happen there, but ultimately that gives you great insight in how your character thinks about money and how they treat money. I mean, do they treat money as a resource, or are they solely a consumer? Question 6. I'm gonna start putting up my fingers, but I only have 4 more questions to do so. What's their race, and what's their gender? We live in a very, progressive world today. So, did they have a sex change operation? That would also fit into this question, number 6. Were they hermaphrodite? That happens sometimes. I mean, if they're an alien or some type of like fantasy thing, I wouldn't assume that they have genitalia. I don't think so. Like, do you ever think? I mean, you create like a monster. Does Godzilla have a penis? I wonder. Number 7. Did they move around a lot growing up? And if so, or even if they did or didn't, are they doing that now? I mean, you can tell a lot about a person. A person who is, you can even tell in the way of their speech. A person who is, world traveled, world weary, versus a person who has been sheltered, and doesn't really have a mind, expansive enough for the different cultures out there in life that don't even really know a language. So that does take an effect on the characterization. Question 8. Describe their childhood. If they had one, I mean, they could be a clone. I don't know why that popped to my head, but your character could be a clone, and your clone could have been born. No, I can't believe I just said birthed. Born or created at around his 30s, or it could be, whatever. It could be a clone popped out in its 30s. You get my drift. And just because your character had a childhood does not mean that it was a pleasant one, or it could have been a pleasant one. Was it a shit show? Were they tormented, bullied? Was it horrendous? Or was it like grazing in green grass? You know? I don't know why I said green grass. Grass is obviously green, but you get my drift. Question 9. Running out of fingers here, people. Does your character have any physical and emotional wounds that they picked up along the years? Everyone has a physical scar, I think. At least we should. But what we don't really talk too much about is the emotional wounds, the emotional scars, breakups that they couldn't really recover from, emotional scars, seeing people murdered in front of them, emotional scar. The character could have been unfortunately molested or raped. That's an emotional scar. I mean, you think about it, but on the psychological level, which is what you should think of your characters on when you're characterizing them on the on a psychological level, yeah, these are things that you should be thinking about. Like, how was their life a mess before the events are taking place? Or was everything pretty much fine? But even just because your character had a fine background, fine childhood, doesn't mean that they didn't go through some things. Everybody goes through some things. There's no such thing as a perfect childhood or perfect life, Every scar, internal and external, has a story. Number 10. What are their skills? Are they a great tune maker, playing the piano? Are they, a chef in the kitchen? Are they a bakery expert? Are they, can they, I don't know, think of a skill. You know what skills are. I mean, but skills that would be relevant to your character. Like, your character could come from a very, very luxurious, upper-class private school that, for some reason, think that fencing is a sport. And they could say that, yeah, I'm great at fencing. Or they could be a rock climber. Or they could be a writer, such as yourself. That's a skill. I mean, think of a skill, but every character should have a skill. The same way they should have a flaw. And speaking of flaws, number 11. What are their weaknesses? Remember, no man is an island. There's no such thing as perfection in a character. And this does play into your flaws, your character flaws that you're going to have to come up with. Which character flaws should never even be something that should be really bogged down. Let it flow naturally. All of this should be flowing naturally. You shouldn't be like, oh, I need like 4 more flaws. I need 4 more talents and weaknesses and skills. Like, no, just let it naturally come to you. You're a creator. You're a writer. Now, going back briefly to the family tree, if they do have siblings, being they are still alive, what was the birth order? Was your character firstborn, your character the middle child, your character an only child, or your character the youngest child? The way how, if their siblings are involved, the interactions in between siblings are going to be vastly different. And just because you're the middle child doesn't mean that you're always going to be treated like the middle child. Like, let's say, take for example, your character is the eldest sibling, but acts like a goofball, and the youngest sibling has to act like the eldest and has to look out for the older sibling, and that could be a really interesting interaction right there. Anytime they talk, anytime they speak, or anytime one refers to the other one. Number 13. Does your character have a closer relationship with one parent versus the other? Is your character a mama's boy? Is your character a daddy's girl? Were they close at all to the parents? That being the parents were even alive or raised them. And the last being question number 14. Did they hate or dislike one of their parents? That says a lot about your character. That's what separates your Jeffrey Dahmer, who I think may have hated his mother, or I don't know, a lot of serial killers hated their mothers. But ultimately, that tells a lot about your character. I mean, if they have an issue or beef with their father. All right, so that's pretty much it. I think these have been a fun 14 questions, and we've got 5 more videos to add on top of these series. And this is all just about characterization. And just in a matter of 14 questions, we know your character very deeply. And I guarantee you there are certain writers out there who probably just be like, yeah, 14 questions, yeah, I know my character, I can start writing now. No, we got more work to do. We got more work to do. I mean, like, how long do you want to really dedicate yourself to this project? Do you want this project to be good? Do you want it to come out good? Or do you want to beat your head against the wall thinking like, oh, why is my character not alive? And like the other characters, like I'm reading the novels that I love or the movies and television programs that I love watching, you know? You need to really understand your character on a psychological level and emotional level before you're ready to even write their first words. So thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. There's more coming your way. Till next time, it's been fun. And thanks for watching. Deuces.